This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this, if this is the pre-roll before our introduction, what we're about to read to you is ridiculous.
Yes. Yeah, you texted me this article and you're like, this, I forget the word you said, is like sick or twisted or I don't know.
Or disgusting.
I think you used the word disgusting. So, well, let's start the show so they can find out what it is.
What is it?
When you open the door for somebody else.
Welcome into the vaccine conversation with Dr. Bob and Melissa.
It's really you. You're here.
I am.
I can't believe it.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yay. Welcome into the show. And this is
thanks for staying with us, guys, and keep coming back for more.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like we keep trying to bore you with things and
with tetanus episodes.
And just turn you off to like everything that we're saying by just, like these passionate rants and all this infectious disease information. But you guys keep coming back for more.
Yep.
So thanks for coming back. We're glad you're here.
Yes,
are you glad they're here?
I'm glad they're here. Yep.
Me too. Now,
it's funny. I mean, you guys don't know this, but this is like our third hour of doing this morning. So now I'm tired. You were tired at the beginning.
I'm still
tired. And now
tired.
I'm tired. So we're going to need your energy to pull us through this one.
I'm still tired, but you know what? It doesn't matter because we live for this. We live for these moments to bring you the crappiest articles that you will see written. And one of those articles we're going to bring you today, we're talking with a capital C, crap. This is like really bad, you guys. Like I'm telling you. And you know what? I'm going to say this now. I want you to have a pen and paper handy so that you can write down the name of the article and write down who the author is, because I'm going to encourage all of you to email this author and suggest a few corrections in some of her errors. Because you know what? We are going to start keeping people accountable, everyone. And we are not going to let the media get away with this kind of ridiculous unfactual information, because we know there is only one side of the story being covered, and it's really bad right now in the media. You will never see anything but one side of the story. We are going to call people on their crap. Hashtag call them on their crap. Okay? Get a piece of paper and pen and write the name of this down. It says, rich people are leading the anti-vaccine movement, and experts have a theory why. And the author is Kristen Baller, not sure, Bahler. We're going to find her email address, and we are going to politely and respectfully write to her and keep her accountable for the tone and angle and lack of data in this article.
Right, and it's published in Money magazine on money.com, and
this was April 15th.
Yeah, and we'll put a link. By the way,
we will.
But basically, anytime we do something that has like either an article like this or scientific references, and we want you to be able to back up, your information with good solid data. If you look on your podcast where you're listening right now on your phone, and you hit more to see the description of the episode, you'll see a little tiny URL link at the bottom of our description. If you click on that, or if you're on YouTube, you cut and paste it in somewhere, we'll actually take you to our immunity education group page and our immunity education Facebook page, where we list every single article from every single episode we've ever done, except for a few in between we haven't gotten to yet. But we'll post this. You can click right there, get right to this article that way. Or like Melissa said, you can just Google search it yourself.
Well, let me tell you, first of all, you're not going to want to read this article. You don't want to actually read this article, but you're going to.
That's where you'll go. You'll be able to comment to the author.
You are going to read this article, but you're not going to want to read this article.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so Kristen, oh, geez. Here's how she starts, okay? She talks about, we are having this, higher case of measles in Europe. She mentions Europe. This is a 20-year high. And she says that experts have agreed. They've put it squarely on the shoulders of anti-vaccine skeptics. The reason we're having a 20-year high of measles in Europe is because of anti-vaccine skeptics, hey, according to her, like us, right? People that have information and data from your Department of Public Health and your Center for Disease Control. People that expect for there to be vaccine safety research that is done that is adequate and that are against mandates. Guess what, guys? We are responsible for this 20-year high, according to her. And she says, unfortunately, in her mind, the people who are responsible for this vaccine hesitancy are well educated. She said data shows this. Data shows that these are in the most affluent neighborhoods and they're well educated with exceptional access to health care. So she said the parents least likely to vaccinate their kids are well educated.
Yeah, and something I found the way she puts it, that which is kind of interesting, is she talks about the overwhelming evidence that vaccines are not just safe, but vaccines are critical to a healthy, functioning society. And again, that's a very important PR message. We have to make Americans believe that complete 100% compliance with vaccines are critical to a healthy, functioning society.
And without that, it's going to implode, and we're all going to be covered in diseases.
And we know for sure that's not true. And we've talked about it in lots of other episodes, but that's completely not true. But what she says is the naysayers are a group of people who are fully equipped to know better.
And what's better?
Right, to know better than to not vaccinate.
To not comply.
Right, to not comply. Like, we should know better.
Because we're intelligent.
Right, no, but we should vaccinate. She's saying we should know that vaccines are so critical to a healthy, functioning society that we should know better than to not vaccinate.
But she's saying because we're fully equipped, meaning we're very educated and intelligent. Right. So we should know better because they believe there's only one level of science on this.
Right, but what's interesting is that's kind of maybe her first error is people who actually do the research and educate themselves and look at all the science on vaccine importance versus vaccine safety. They actually know, medically speaking, we have not proven that that full vaccination is critical to a healthy, functioning society, and they have not proven that vaccines make everyone healthier. They've just proven that vaccines make you vaccinated, and vaccines.
That's true. That is a true point right there. They have proven vaccines make you vaccinated. I love that,
and they protect you from diseases in a variety of ways. That's all they've been able to prove.
They can.
Right. They can. Right.
Don't always though, because this is why we're in this
Kristen,
situation.
You have to realize that, and Kristen, feel free to show me. There's not any science that shows that vaccines make a society healthier, make a society more functioning. There are 20 factors that make a society healthier and better functioning. Better, other aspects of medical care, better nutrition, healthier living, less pollution, less environmental toxins, or organic eating, exercise, being happy, laughter, good relationships, being, having a spouse or a significant other in your life. I mean, there's so many things that make you healthier. But Kristen, they have not proven that vaccination is one of those things.
Well, also looking at health, what about infant mortality rates?
Right.
And child mortality rates.
We've talked about that before.
Yeah, we know as our country, we're talking about we want this healthy, functioning society while we have a country with very high infant mortality rates for industrialized country.
Right. And countries worldwide that have the highest vaccination rates and the largest vaccine schedules have lower infant and child mortality.
Other way around.
Have higher infant and child mortality rates.
The ones that have the lower vaccine schedules have the lower infant mortality rates, which is what you're striving for a healthy society. You want the lowest number of children dying before they're 1 year old. Or
so we're not saying that we have science that shows vaccines are responsible for more mortality. Like, we don't know that we have higher mortality rates because we vaccinate more. I'm more saying that, Kristen, you don't have the science to prove your statement that vaccines are critical to a healthy, functioning society.
And then she goes on to quote someone, a Pace law professor, which is funny because, of course, we see Mary Holland quoted, who's also a law professor. But guess what, guys? They're not even putting out the request for someone to give a counter to this. So the only person that gets interviewed is going to be the person that they suggest. And this particular law professor says, you know why we're having problems with these educated, wealthy parents who are questioning vaccines? Because of helicopter parenting, yes. She says, parents who opt out of vaccines tend to believe simply that they can make the scientific determinations about the efficacy and dangers of vaccines for themselves. God forbid, as a parent, you can do some research with your educational and professional background in conjunction with your doctor. God forbid you have the mental capacity to weigh pros and cons. How do you think we've made it this far and become so successful in whatever careers that we have? Like, are you telling me that we can't? Is that what she's saying? She's saying the reason that people are opting out is because they think they should have a role in this.
Right.
Can you just imagine?
I know.
The audacity.
I bet that's maybe one of the new PR angles. They might actually start using PR in the media to say, parents, you should not scientifically investigate vaccines yourself because you're not equipped to do it.
You're not capable.
You're not capable.
Yeah.
So don't bother doing it. Just trust your doctor.
Can you imagine? Like, that is so patronizing. And then this is what she says. She says, wealthy people have more free time on their hands. Okay, so this is why we can spend time poring over the anti-vaccine websites. And we can, with all this free time that we have, we can apply for the exemptions that you need. Last I checked, it doesn't take a lot of time to do that. But they're basically... Go ahead.
Well, she's also saying we're only getting this information from anti-vaccine forums and websites.
I said
that. No, but she's saying that's where we only get it from.
Yeah.
We're not getting it from scientific journals.
Right.
Did you say that?
Yeah.
Oh, I was texting Cheryl.
Yeah,
she's like, so we're going to see Infinity War today, and so I have like a hard stop at like just after 12, so I don't want to miss
I have
Infinity
to leave before
War.
then.
So okay, cool. But anyway. Sorry, you said that?
So what she said...
See, guys, I can't text and listen to say that.
I know.
I was very impressed with the last episode. You totally listened.
Women can do this. Women?
While you were reading.
Hey,
anyway.
am I right? Women, we do this all the time. Okay, so no, what this author is saying is all this free time for being these wealthy people that have free time that are educated. We just look through all these anti-vaccine websites to get our information, and we spend all of our time applying for all the exemptions to bypass these laws. It's like it's a piece of paper that your doctor, you go to your doctor for, sorry, that doesn't take months of time that you have as a wealthy person. Right. And by the way, a lot of people that are very educated and very wealthy, that are doing very well in their professional careers, do not have a lot of time because they are succeeding in life and in their professional careers. So let's not overgeneralize here about people that have a high income, assuming that they're at the Bahamas every other week or that they're on a yacht, Monday through Friday. I mean, this is so ridiculous.
But I want to go back to helicopter parenting because I didn't think of this when I read it last night while I was doing my homework in preparation for this podcast. That was on the last episode, so people aren't going to get that. Never
okay,
mind. Right. The idea of helicopter parenting is where parents, correct me if I'm wrong, parents hover around their children too much to make sure they're not exposed to danger or they don't get hurt. Or something bad happens to them.
Isn't that a terrible thing for a parent?
Because they're, if they're going to fall, you can catch them. Or something else is going to come along and hit them, you can, move in the way and protect them. And so, I think people look at helicopter parenting as a very negative thing. And maybe to the extreme, it can be a negative thing. And, Cheryl and I were very much helicopter parents when our kids were younger. And, we walking along a wall, I would be right there with him. So if he falls, he doesn't get hurt. So
I'm sorry, you mean parenting?
Parenting, right.
Yeah, that's just called parenting.
So if there's maybe it can be taken to the extreme, and that kids maybe do need to get little bangs and bruises here and there. Just they kind of learn how to be more cautious on their own. But yeah, you don't want your kid to be injured. But it's interesting that Kristen is almost suggesting as if. Vaccines are dangerous and have some risk. And so all the educated parents are helicoptering around their kids because they know they actually need to protect them from the dangers of vaccination, and they need to protect them from over-vaccination. And these parents need to do their research to educate themselves about the risk of vaccination so that as helicopter parents, they're making sure their kids are not overly vaccinated. And if there's harm, they're close and they're educated. They know how to recognize it. So, Kristen, I would actually like to thank you. I think you are right. Parents who are interested in
present,
they're present and are keeping their kids safe from possible harm.
And they're on their radar.
Right?
That's what you do as a parent. You're supposed to know what's happening to your kids and protect them. Helicopter parenting, as a like you're saying, is meant to be a negative thing, as in it's a type of shaming, as in parents, you know what, just step back. Let us make the decisions for you.
Right.
We got this. Let us handle this. We got your kids. You don't really need to be so involved. I mean, what does that tell you about what they could be hiding if you don't want the parents to be involved? If you're totally 100% behind what you stand for and what you are advocating for, as it relates to vaccines, you should encourage the parents to join in and say, see, it's all here, it's all safe, it's all clear. Why would you encourage the parents to step back?
Right.
That's a definite red flag.
Yeah, I know. And she's encouraging, oh my gosh, she's telling you, and the Pace Law professor is also encouraging you, stop being a helicopter parent. Don't worry about any aspect of this healthcare. Like you just said, let potential dangers happen to your child, because your child's going to be stronger for it. Your child's going to grow and learn from all these injuries that are going to happen to your child, because you're no longer going to be that helicopter parent, especially when it comes to the medical industry. And just, how wrong is that? I mean, it just kind of blows me away.
They're trying to remove, and Bobby Kennedy says this, remove the obstacle, which is in between the medical establishment and the child, which is the parent.
The parent, yeah.
And they're trying to
totally
step you back so that they have easier access to it and make you feel stupid for even wanting to be involved. And any parent in their right mind should know every single thing that is injected into your child, even for a disease you are, scared of, and that there is a risk. You should totally know what the disease is, how many diseases your child has been vaccinated for, when they've been vaccinated, in what type of vaccine, you have to be informed. What's happening is this has all been such a vague process. These well visit appointments, it's so vague. You just show up for a well visit appointment. They do the rest. I challenge all of you fully vaccinating parents, I challenge all of you to be able to tell me exactly what your child has been vaccinated for. By disease, by age, and by dose, without looking at something. I challenge you to know what has been in there. They have not encouraged us to know. And this is a further example of how they're pushing us arm's length away on purpose.
Yeah, and then Kristen is basically faulting parents for being educated and knowledgeable about this. And you're right, they're actively suggesting parents do not become educated about this, which that blows me. I wonder if Kristen has children. I don't know. I would kind of be.
I know that would be.
I mean, I'm not going to say. I mean, I don't know Kristen. So
but you're right. I do see that same kind of pattern as well. Often with people who do not have children making these very, very generalized statements about who they think we are and this what this movement really is about. And she says all these anti-vax theories that says these aren't just in little social media threads. She says that these are bolstered by some very powerful nonprofits. Again, reminder, she says anti-vax theories. Okay, who does she quote? NVIC. The National Vaccine Information Center, which is literally just sourced and cited information based on states, based on vaccine safety, based on legislation and things that are happening in all the different states. This is literally set up to be a fact resource. And the fact that she is saying somebody like NVIC is considered an anti-vax theory, like, are you kidding me? Does she know the work this organization has done over the last, 30 years, if not longer? More, So the fact that she sees NVIC as an that's a problem number one right there, because then that means anybody who is sourcing or citing anything from NVIC is also somebody who is listening to anti-vax theories. But listen, I know that there are some extremists on our side, but NVIC is not one of them. They are extremely sourced and cited and very factual. And it's ridiculous that she's calling them out by name in this. And
I want to also say she of course says the debunked thing. She says, vaccines cause autism. That claim has been thoroughly debunked. And Kristen, I'll give you that on the mainstream science level, because that is what mainstream science believes they have done. But I'm going to call you out on the other claim you feel has been thoroughly debunked by science. You say that the false belief that vaccines contain harmful toxins, and you say that has been thoroughly debunked. You cannot show me a single study that shows vaccines don't contain harmful toxins and that they've actually researched those toxins in vaccines and shown that they're completely safe and cause no harm.
At the level we get them and the way that they are introduced
Absolutely.
into the body.
In fact, we know formaldehyde, which is in many vaccines, we know that's a carcinogen. Science has proven formaldehyde is a toxin.
And people always mention the pear. Oh, you get more formaldehyde in a pear. It's like,
I know,
do people
but it's still formaldehyde. It's still a toxin. So, Kristen, you're claiming that vaccines do not contain harmful toxins. How can you make such a claim when formaldehyde is literally listed as an ingredient in vaccines? Aluminum is there. We know aluminum is harmful. There's what else? I mean, we know there's some little traces of mercury. We know there's
polysorbate,
glutaraldehyde, MSG, monosodium glutamate. 2-phenoxyethanol is another chemical. Octoxanol, that's even a hard one to say. That's like it's like a spermicide or something. Yeah, it's something to do with that. There's a octylphenol and nonylphenol ethoxylate. Did I even say that right? There's cetyl trimethyl ammonium bromide. There's now they found glyphosate in vaccines. There are DNA fragments of from human fetal tissues. There are parts of animal products like cow tissues, cow blood, cow serum. I mean, there's all kinds of strange chemicals in vaccines with zero safety research on either all those chemicals put together or separately. So to me, that's a problem. I mean, if you look at the list of toxins ingredients, we know they're all over the vaccines, especially flu vaccines as well. And there's no science whatsoever that has actually examined the individual toxicity or even the combined toxicity of all those toxins. So, Kristen, again, show me a study that says they have debunked that, because I know you can't. But again, you're just kind of saying the PR message, because I'm sure you believe that PR message.
Well, plus she gets to say it without having to show the science.
Right.
And it gets to be on something that has a large readership.
Right.
And she doesn't have to back it up and prove it. Her thing's totally fine. But yet you say something that's backed up, and that's misinformation.
Right.
I mean, think about how imbalanced this conversation really is. Yeah. And then she talks about how... she says that wealthy parents basically have the time and ability to jump through hoops to not opt into vaccination. So, like, for example, if you have to go to your doctor's office to get a medical exemption with all of the documentation of your child's previous reaction and the family history and all that data, right? You have to go to the doctor's office to get a medical exemption. She's calling that jumping through hoops. As if you are doing something we have all this time to just jump through all these hoops. Like, most people know it's extremely difficult to get a medical exemption.
Right.
In fact, we know in West Virginia, they even tried to propose a new bill this legislative season to bring back medical exemptions because people are finding such a hard time with doctors that will acknowledge the severe vaccine reactions that they've had.
But again, Kristen, is called being a parent. Every parent needs to make the time when it's an important medical decision. It's critical. Yeah, and
that's not a level of wealth and affluence.
And I would disagree. I feel like parents with both parents are working, or a 2-income family, or if you have a lower socioeconomic status and you're not making as much money as a family, every parent has time to do research and to read scientific articles and go online and look at the medical information online. Everyone has that time. There's no one completely lacks free time to do their research and investigate things.
And what irritates me is the fact that this law person that's quoted, Fentiman, calls these things hoops. It's not called hoops, you guys. It's the legal process. The legal process, the law says you can have a medical exemption, and you go to your doctor and you provide all the information to get a medical exemption. That's not a hoop. That's called the legal process. You're literally doing what your right is under current law. That's not a hoop. You're not, like the way that they make it look like it's just this casual little thing that people just do because they can and because they have money to do so. But this is where it kind of irritates me. And she says, when an outbreak does happen, though, these affluent, educated people, they're not the ones that are hardest hit. I'm thinking, but if they're the ones who have the unvaccinated kids and an outbreak's happening, why wouldn't they be the hardest hit?
Right.
Isn't it their kid that's the one at risk?
Right.
If everybody else is vaccinated, then why during an outbreak would it not be them?
You're right. And if she's saying all the less educated and less economically, well-off families, if they're all the ones that are vaccinating, then they would be well protected.
Wouldn't
if
they?
their vaccines are working, they would be perfectly well protected.
This is the idea,
so
right?
Neither of those is true. We're not seeing. Anyway, go ahead. I don't know. Whatever you're saying.
Whatever I'm saying. So then she goes in to talk about how we have these anti-vaccine disinformation campaigns that are specifically targeting Orthodox neighborhoods. She calls them propagandists that are going into these communities, guys, and they're just, what are they doing? I don't know. And who are these people? I have no idea what she's talking about. Are we those people? Are we knocking on the doors, telling people not to? This is so ridiculous, and it's such an overgeneralization. And she said, because these Orthodox neighborhoods and these cultural groups have fewer resources, they're not going to be protected when that tragedy strikes. So she's suggesting people are walking into these communities, telling them a bunch of stuff, don't vaccinate, and leaving. And then tragedy comes and they have to deal with it. It's just assuming everybody's so stupid.
But what would be the motivation for that?
Of course, there's no motivation.
There's no motivation
and there's nobody doing it.
Yeah, but the other thing is Kristen's wrong. The Jewish ultra-Orthodox communities, they're not a lower socioeconomic status.
Right.
They're not less educated.
Totally. That's what she's saying.
They're very well educated.
That's very discriminatory, in fact. Yes.
Right. And they live in New York. They live in great communities. I've been there. I've met a number of families there, and they're honestly, except for their religious views, I feel like they're kind of just like you and I. And so she's saying a lot of things that are just simply not true. She also says, she points out the Somali American, community in Minneapolis, and maybe saying maybe they are socially, economically on a lower status. But the thing about that community is they are voluntarily not vaccinated,
right,
for the most part. They're choosing to opt out. And the diseases are not spreading from outside of those communities. So it's not like though the outbreaks in those communities are even really impacting anyone else. They're making those health decisions for either religious or social or medical belief reasons. And so again, it's not something that really ties into all these outbreaks we're having nationwide.
And then she gets bad. This is when she says,
"Yeah,
this underscores a more sinister theory." A sinister theory about why rich Americans are opting out. So when you hear the word sinister, listeners, what do you think of? Evil, bad, mean, cruel, right? Something terrible, right? So she's saying this is the theory that's at work at why these people are opting out. And I just have to stop and say, she's basically assuming people opting out are not parents of vaccine-injured children. But we know that they are.
Right.
And how dare you call those people sinister?
Yeah.
How dare you attempt to say that they are responsible for danger to anybody else when their child has already suffered? And she said that there was some data that was researched in the Washington Post, completely unrelated to medical procedures, by the way. This Washington Post article had nothing to do with medical procedures, but they did some kind of article that found wealthy people to have less empathy. So they're more likely to cheat on their taxes and their spouses, and they give lower proportions of their income to charity. Can you imagine the level of stereotype that she is using here? She's literally putting anybody who is questioning and opting out of vaccines, we're talking about parents of vaccine-injured children. She is saying that they are highly educated, but because they're more affluent, they could care less about somebody else's feelings, and they're selfish, and they are cheating through life, and they are going to cheat through this and hurt everybody else in the process as a result. I mean, this is scandalous, the amount of attack that she is going on. And I encourage every single one of you that is as fired up as I am about this to email her and let her know the truth about what's really going on, because I am completely offended.
Can you do it nicely, though? I mean, don't be one of those social media
I said professionally
bullies and respectfully.
Be effective. You're not going to be effective if it's hate mail. Be effective. But this is absolutely offensive to me. Not only is she telling us that these religious communities are on a low socioeconomic status and they're undereducated. She's making that claim, which is offensive in itself. She's also saying parents of vaccine-injured children don't give a crap about anybody else. We don't have morals and character values to care about our community. And that is so wrong. And in fact, if anything, it is the absolute opposite. It's everybody else not caring about these children. Right. And so this kind of stuff makes me so angry because I read it and she's just saying all this stuff like it's fact. And how dare her? Kristen, how dare you? How dare you go to this level and to sit here and criticize and target these families who are opting out, who you've even said with your own words are higher educated. And you are sitting here and you're going to tell people that they just are selfish people who could care less about anybody else. You should be ashamed of yourself.
Tell us how you really feel, Melissa.
Well,
right. And she says, if you're rich, the consequences of opting out of vaccines are not particularly dire. After all, it's easier to rationalize the risks of bypassing immunization if you can afford a lengthy hospital stay. A lengthy hospital stay, is she suggesting every single illness that we vaccinate for would, if you caught it, you'd be in the hospital for months and months? Yeah. Or I thought some of these, you would die from. So I'm surprised, according to her, you would even be in the hospital still alive. I mean, this is just so absolutely ridiculous. Yeah. Is this happening? Are all the people opting out having lengthy hospital stays for their children that don't have all the vaccines on the schedule? No, they're not. I mean, most of them aren't catching the diseases, but, let alone being hospitalized for a lengthy stay. Yeah, most of the cases of these diseases are routine. I don't know a single person. I have not met a single person in 5 years whose child was hospitalized for a vaccine-preventable disease that they opted out that dose of. I don't know a single person. Right. And as a doctor of 20 years, I've probably put maybe 5 patients in the hospital for something that they caught that they were not vaccinated for. Maybe not counting the flu. Just maybe 5. Over in 20 years, all the tens of thousands of kids I've seen. And then she says, these people who are the lawyer that she interviews says these people who are choosing not to vaccinate, they're not getting vilified either in a social element. She says they probably won't face any social ramifications either. Oh, really? You're talking about we're not facing social ramifications? How about being talked about like a piece of scum, like the way that she's talking about us in this article? Right. Well, I'll tell you, Kristen, what social ramifications families are going to be facing, regardless of their social economic status. But say if you're maybe a really wealthy person, let's say your state makes vaccines mandatory for everybody in the state to go to school, and you're a wealthy businessman and you have a business and you hire you have 1,000 employees in your area, and suddenly the state makes vaccines mandatory, so you're just going to basically up and move your business to a different state. You can bet that the 1,000 employees that work for you, and they're all going to up and hopefully move with you, or they're going to lose their jobs. There are going to be a lot of people that are going to be feeling that economic pressure, not only the business owner, but all the employees. If states keep passing laws that mandate medicine, that force whole companies to leave the state, that's going to, everybody's going to feel that, whether you own the company or whether you're an employee of the company. And, the states are going to feel that economic pressure too. I mean, if I know a lot of wealthy business owners and just, regular employees too that will leave California if more and more mandatory laws pass, and maybe that will put economic pressure. But we're all going to feel that pressure, and states are going to start feeling that pressure more and more.
And Linda Fentiman, who was interviewed here, that is the attorney, which we also need to make sure and contact her and let her know where she got this wrong. She said that they should be vilified.
Right.
She's saying that parents of vaccine-injured children who opt out of further vaccines, should be vilified.
Right. Yeah. She's
Think
saying,
about
she's
that
saying
statement.
They're not really vilified.
But she's saying they
Right.
should be.
Right. Right.
As if we're not already. I mean, how many laws are already passed against us at this point where we're taking away rights to education? That's a type of vilification, absolutely.
Right.
But she thinks that people socially should vilify us.
Right. But she says it's an anomaly, which I find strange. I mean, she's saying, all the well-educated, wealthier people in America, if they're all the ones that are not vaccinating, that's not an anomaly. That's a trend. I mean, that's maybe a growing group of Americans.
She's saying it's an anomaly that you're able to do this and not be vilified for it.
Okay, interesting.
This is where I think she needs to be corrected, and so does the author. The people not doing this are people who have suffered as a result of this.
Right. Okay.
We have to clarify this. And you guys, I encourage you, every single time you see an article put out in any organization that is incorrect in their reasoning, incorrect in their tone, incorrect in their offensive language, you need to keep them accountable. We have got to call people out on this, and you get everyone you know in your informed choice group to call as well. Anybody you know in your medical freedom group, we need to be sending hundreds of emails to authors of articles like this, because you are completely dismissing families of vaccine injury, and you are shaming them in a way that is absolutely unacceptable. I encourage anybody you'll have this link, email her and anybody else, stuff like this. You see more articles like this, you call them on it. Keep them accountable. This is not acceptable as a society to go here. And I think that, this was in 3 pages. It's just like, imagine all the stuff that she said here in 3 little printed out pages, and how awful she is being to humans and children that have dealt with pain and suffering. And she has no right to do this.
Right. And I think what their agenda is in the media, we're seeing this more and more, is they're trying to pressure vaccine hesitant parents just to simply go ahead and vaccinate, because socially it's going to be easier.
Peer pressure.
It's going to be way easier if you would just give in, get with the program, get with the rest of us and vaccinate, because we're no longer just going to let you opt out and live your life normally anymore. If you're going to opt out,
we're going to make it difficult for you.
Yeah, we're going to make it difficult in every possible way. And you know what? Some parents are going to cave to that pressure.
Yes.
And that is probably a very well thought out media PR tactic, because I've already seen patients cave to that. I've
know
seen
people
moms
that
and dads in my office have that very discussion. Dad's like, I want my kids to be normal.
Yes.
Mom's
I just heard this the other day.
Mom's like, I want my kids to be the healthiest they can possibly
and be protected.
Right. And so, Dad, I want them to go to school, but mom's like, or the other way, I want them to, not suffer another severe vaccine reaction that they already had. And again, this is putting pressure on that side that doesn't want to be vilified, and people are giving in. It's working in some respects, and it's very clever. And I'm, calling you out on it, that it is, it's
unacceptable.
Yeah, it's unacceptable.
It's unacceptable, period.
Thank you. Yeah. I know these kinds of articles fire. I never even read these articles. Like if I see them, come across something, I just ignore them, because I just don't read them. But thank
every
you for
opportunity,
this one.
every time you see something like this is an opportunity to educate someone, and you never know who's sharing this on a Facebook feed. You need to correct it. You need to address it. We cannot let this kind of stuff go out, because we're already up against the media empire, who is going, the only ones getting coverage. And so we're going to start going directly to the authors and the editors and the publishers of these periodicals or, online online, what's the word I'm looking for? Online
Journals, magazines.
Yeah, magazines.
Yeah.
We're going to be calling them out and keeping them accountable. I'm sorry, but this is not journalism. This is not journalism.
Right. It's entertainment.
It is disturbing.
Entertainment
Yeah, it's like, it's so off base. It's so non-factual. There's nothing basing this up. And it's all these wild, broad claims just thrown around with nothing.
But that's how almost all online
now.
magazines are. Yeah, it's not journalism anymore.
Yep.
It's
and we need to call them out.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys. Thanks for listening on this one. And again, rate and review us. And
don't tell me I'm too passionate on this episode, guys. Please don't. I'm sorry. I can't help it. As I read this stuff, like literally part of me like just gets really upset because I think of who they're really talking about. And I've seen those faces, and our family's one of those faces. So it really infuriates me to have anybody trying to discredit who you think I am, the type of morality and honesty and character that I have as a person.
Yeah.
So absolutely not.
Yep.
I do not consent.
Yep. You're not going to take it.
I will not.
Right. All right. Well, we'll see you guys next time on the Vaccine Conversation.
We're gonna be the peace we wanna see in the world. Yeah, be the peace we wanna see in the world. Be the love we wanna see in the world. Be the joy we wanna see in the world. Be the change we wanna see in the world.
The information in this podcast is for entertainment purposes only. It is not intended as medical advice. Always consult your healthcare professional for information on vaccines and infectious diseases.